I have back with me Cynthia G. She is a popular YouTube personality from Seattle, Washington. She talks about white supremacy a lot and psychology, the psychology of black oppression. Cynthia, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm actually glad to be here. How are you doing?
All is well. I appreciate you coming back. How have things been since we last spoke?
Things have been good, just kind of watching a lot of white identity extremism occur and not be labeled as such. But otherwise, things are great.
What is the psychology of black oppression?
Well, in order to understand the psychology of black oppression, you have to look at the pathology of the people who are perpetuating black oppression, and that is white supremacists. And the interesting thing of it is when we talk about making America great again and uniting the races, which isn't really going to happen anytime in the foreseeable future, it's interesting how we can mention those things without breaking down the pathology of white supremacy and those who have divided the races, which is white supremacists.
And how are white people doing this? Give us a couple examples of what white people are doing to blacks to oppress them, and why are black people so weak that they allow this to happen?
Well, I wouldn't say the question would be why are black people so weak. The question will be is why is white supremacy so diabolical and savage to where black people would have to exist in this position. Now, the thing of it is you can't say weak. I was born into this system. All I need not do anything but be born to reap the consequences of a system of white supremacy that was put in place before I was even conceived or thought about being conceived. So that doesn't have anything to do with black people being perceived as weak. The ones who are weak are those who need the system of white supremacy, which are white supremacists, who only need to be born and continue with their innate mentality in order for white supremacy to thrive. So it's very systemic.
What are white people doing? Give us something that they are doing to you people to oppress you.
So you know what a system is, right? And how an infrastructure works.
What is a system? What is a system?
A system is when you have employment discrimination. A system is when you systematically funnel black people into disenfranchised, economically stagnant areas. It's when you take away jobs, when you don't educate, you indoctrinate a attitude of inferiority.
Okay.
It's a whole entire structure.
So what
the foundation of the country is black oppression. There wouldn't be an America without it.
So are you calling the system the white people? Are the white people the system?
They benefit from it, so absolutely.
And so what are they doing to you people to oppress you within that system? What are they doing?
I just told you, and all of the data corresponds with it. They're perpetuating employment discrimination. They're perpetuating economic discrimination. They're literally screening people based on their names to find out ones that sound black so that they cannot hire them. And that's what they're doing. I just told you they're funneling black people by taking away opportunities from them. They're doing the school to prison pipeline, mass incarceration. Like the fact that just even by virtue of this recent FBI sending out a list calling black people black identity extremists, but within a week period, you just had 4 white people do mass shootings. Still haven't been labeled terrorists, though. So that's pretty systemic because then it makes everybody's mindset. I'm sorry?
Let me ask, why are the black men and women so weak that if the white man refuse to hire them or does not want to bring them into their own private company, why can't black men do their own things? Why do they feel that white people are supreme over them? Why can't black people do their own thing? Black men should be able to start their own businesses. Why can't they do that?
Oh, you mean like Black Wall Street when white people went and burned it down?
Or
Rosewood when white people went and burned it down? You mean like establish it like that?
In 2017, what's wrong with black men and women that they can't start their own businesses?
They live in a system of white supremacy and sabotage that they were born into. So you do realize at the foundation of this country was white supremacy. It was built upon Black oppression, exploiting Black people, limiting them from opportunities, completely eliminating them from economic opportunities while benefiting off of their hard work. You do realize nothing can deviate from its foundation, right?
And so if that's true, I don't believe, I know
Well,
it's
it is
not
true.
true, but I know it's not true, but if it was true,
What's not true?
back in the good
Jesse,
old,
what's not true?
back in the good old days when boys were boys and men were men, and things were worse for blacks in that the laws were not protecting them, why were they able to build Wall Street, and why were they able to build black universities and other black-owned businesses in the country back then, but they can't do it now when they are protected by the laws? Why were they able to do it back then?
Black people are not protected by the law.
Why were they able to do
that's
it
number
back
one.
then? Why were they able to build
Black people,
businesses?
first we have to get into a mutual reality. Black people are not protected by the law. My bigger question is because you have this pathology for the Black community, and that's fine. I'm still waiting for you to explain to me, why is it that white people have all of these opportunities and they still engage in extreme terrorism and degenerate behaviors? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Cynthia G, you mentioned Black Wall Street and black businesses back then. Why were they able to do it back then, but they can't do it today?
Because you were in segregation. So Black people were, which I'm very fond of. I think we should go back to that. But you had segregation where Black people for a small period were left alone to an extent and were able to actually do that. Now you have integration, and now you just have Black people's talent and work being exploited. And you have them not able to get business loans, not able to get the licensing that they need to. When they do put up a business, then they have to face being sabotaged. So you have the same situation going on now.
And so if that's true, that back then they were able to do it because of integration, and that meant that blacks were superior, and they were segregation. That meant black people were smarter, they were wiser, they had to do it, so they did it. And if that's true, why did they have forced integration, knowing that that would take away their strength and their talent to be independent people?
Well, you're assuming that they knew that that was going to take away their strengths. When they were going for the civil rights movement and integration, they didn't think that that would take away their strengths. They actually thought that that would make them stronger and alleviate some of the racial injustices that they were going through. That's what they thought. Now, I believe that was a mistake 100%. I'm all for separation. I think we should go back to separation because integration isn't beneficial, it doesn't work.
You're pro-segregation?
I am, absolutely. I think it's something we should go back to.
So is it okay then for white people to be pro-segregation as well?
White people are, regardless to what I deem as okay, regardless to what the law deems as okay, white people are going to think and act in accordance to what they believe is okay. So it doesn't really matter
but
what
I'm
I think.
I'm asking you as a pro-segregation believer, is it okay and right for white people to be pro-segregation as well?
They absolutely can, as long as they're not benefiting from black labor and talent. Absolutely.
888-7753-773. Quick break. Amazing stuff. Back in a moment. You know, Cynthia, I sometimes think about this. Being a pro-segregationist and being black yourself, are you half black and half white, or both father and mother black?
No, both of my parents are black.
Oh, okay. What does it feel, what is it like, and we were talking about this in my office yesterday, what is it like being black and knowing, because I don't believe in that at all, but I know there are a lot of black people such as yourself who do believe this. What is it like knowing that white people are superior to you? What does that feel like to live that way?
Well, Jesse, you're the only one who thinks that white people are superior. I don't
No.
think that they're
Yes, you
superior.
do. Your focus is on white people
I
and
think they've put
black
themselves in a
oppression, white
socially.
supremacy. What does it feel like believing that white people are superior to you?
White people are not superior. Actually, the system of white supremacy is evidence of their inherent mentality of inferiority. But I do know I am in reality, and I'm in reality enough to know that the foundation of this country is black oppression. They've placed themselves in a socially superior position. They are in a socially superior position, but they are not superior at all. And I think trying to shame people and use these little psychological manipulations like, why do you feel white people are superior, is really counterproductive. They're not superior. They've put themselves in a socially superior position. This country wouldn't be, the way that this country is founded is for them to appear to be superior when they're not.
So, but maybe I asked the wrong question then. So, what does it feel like knowing that black people are inferior? Because
Black people are not inferior.
most black people live and think as inferior people because their whole life is rotated around so-called white supremacy and black oppression. They actually believe that, because if they didn't believe that, they wouldn't be focused on that. They would not focus on it and live that way. So what does it feel like knowing that blacks are inferior?
Well, black people were conditioned to believe that they are inferior. No, all of them were.
And
all
who
of
did
them
that
were.
to them?
Even with Jesse, even with your mentality, the fact that you're sitting up here defending the system of white supremacy and pretending as though it doesn't exist, that is evidence of your conditioning. People just manifest it different. So your manifestation of inferiority is different than all of overall black society. And there are some other people whose manifestation is the same as yours, but
you're not answering the question. What does it feel like knowing that most, not all, especially blacks who focus on white people, what does it feel like knowing that you are inferior to white people? What is that like to live that way?
It feels like I'm living in a system of white supremacy.
Oh.
That was very effective, by the way. That's what it feels like. So being in reality.
Amazing. There was, last night they had elections around the country, and there was a lesbian, I like that word, that was elected as mayor of Seattle, Washington. What do you think about that?
I think who someone chooses to have sex with is not my business. I think as long as they're not having predatory sex, they can do whatever they want to. I think it's interesting
what do you
how
think
white
about
society,
a lesbian being elected as mayor? Not what you think about their sexual life, but what do you think about, is it right? What do you think about a lesbian? And then in Virginia, there was
is a sexual lifestyle. That's what it is.
Yeah,
a lesbian is a sexual lifestyle.
I agree.
So I'm telling you what I think about someone's sexual lifestyle. As long as they're not having predatory sex, they are grown. They are consenting adults, because you have to be consenting, or else you're having predatory sex.
Should they be elected as mayor of a city?
Yes. Who they have sex with, to me, bears no importance on how they are politically.
How about a transgender?
I think that, yes, you should be able to.
How about a transgender? There was a man who dresses as a woman. Let me ask. There was a man who dresses as a woman, and in his mind, he thinks he is a woman. He was elected as a state representative in Virginia last night. Is that right? You okay with that too?
I think that's a question for the Virginia residents who voted for him.
No,
that's
I think
that's a question for them.
As Cynthia G, a popular YouTuber, is that right? You agree with that?
It's right according to what the residents of Virginia want.
How about according to Cynthia G? How about according to Cynthia G?
I don't care. I don't really care.
Is
That's
it
the
right?
thing. I don't really care.
In your mind, is it right?
I don't care one way or another. To me, I'm neutral, so it's neither right or wrong to me. It's someone's sexual preference, and I'm not here to police a sexual preference. You have.
Would
I'm
you
pretty
vote?
sure you
Would
have
you
some
vote for a
politicians.
transgender person? Would you vote for a transgender person?
If I felt like they could be effective, absolutely, because it's not my business what their sexual orientation or identity is. That's not up to me to. I don't. Like, why would I care about that? I care more about the fact that you have white supremacists and white identity extremists running amok, and our government is really not addressing the issue. That's what I care about.
Are you a Christian?
I'm not.
Do you believe in God?
Absolutely. I was raised to be a Christian, actually.
And what happened to you?
I realized it was a system of white supremacy.
Oh. And how do you know you believe in God? What does that mean to you to believe in God?
You would just recognize that there's a God, and then you would just believe in said God. That's what you would do.
Do you love white people?
I don't care one way or another. I'm indifferent. I see white people as a problem. So it's not an emotional thing for me. It's about what is the problem and what is the solution. That's how I look at them.
As a person who believes in God, do you love white people?
I don't think that my belief in God has anything to do with my feelings about white people. Though they're two completely separate things. I don't see how we're mentioning them in the same context.
As a person who believes in God, do you love white people?
I don't care about them. I'm indifferent.
Do you love them?
Okay, so I'm telling you, I don't care
I didn't
about
ask
them.
if
I'm
you
indifferent.
cared about them. I asked if you loved them.
I am indifferent to their existence. That's what it is. I don't have any emotional attachment to them. I don't care at all.
So is that a no?
There's nothing emotional.
Is that a no? You don't love white people?
It's I don't love or hate them. I don't feel any particular way. I don't care.
Do you
about
love
them
black
at all.
people?
I do.
You do. And how can you
Absolutely.
love black people but not white people? If you can't love white people, you love no one.
I don't even know what that would mean. I think your statement, Jesse, is very indicative of how supreme you believe they are. It's interesting how you elevate them to a level that I've never even.
If you don't love white people, you love no one. I want to hold you over for one more segment. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sure.
888-77. Jesse, we'll get a few calls as well, folks. Cynthia, this is Manhood Hour. What is a man?
Are you asking me my opinion of a man or a biological construct of a man?
Well, we know a male is, we know the biologic of a male. What is a man?
I think a man is someone who has a moral and ethical code that they live by. I think he would be reliable. I think he has a certain level of principles. I think that he's not savage and destructive. I don't measure manhood by how much violence you can cause or what you can obtain. I measure that by how you're obtaining it. What are your principles? What are your ethics?
Have you ever dated a white man?
I haven't.
You have not?
No.
I've said over and over again for the last however many years now that black people are used, not all but most, not all but most, are used for destruction and not to build but to destroy. And that we see it in the black communities. A lot of times blacks move in, whites move out, but when they move in, the community is beautiful, it's nice and clean, the houses are painted and look well, and the blacks move in and they destroy that. We see it now with the thugs of the NFL. They are destroying the NFL by kneeling, by turning their backs on the country, on the flag, on the men and women of the military, and they are destroying their own livelihood by doing this. We have seen it with black families. Black men and women make babies, but they don't get married. The kids grow up screwed up, angry, gang members, having children out of wedlock. And so most blacks' only purpose on this earth, at least in America, is to destroy. And you see it in black on black crime, abortion, black men and black women hate each other for the most part. How do you feel about that when you see that happening? How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't see that as what you see it as. I actually think it's funny. And I'm like, I think it's comical that you would say all of that while we live in a society amongst people who have literally obtained nothing by way of intelligence and everything by way of violence and destruction. Black people are not shooting up concerts and injuring 500 people and killing 56 of them. Black people are not doing that.
They're killing each other in a major way.
Black people are not committing the most crimes in this country. Black people are not your biggest mass shooters. They're not your biggest serial killers.
I asked you, how do you feel?
Your biggest rapists,
how do you feel about that, though? The question that I asked about blacks being so destructive.
I feel like it's inaccurate. I feel like it's highly inaccurate.
It's not happening.
And it's so inaccurate that I can't answer anything.
Are you saying that? Are you saying that it's not happening?
I'm saying that your statement saying that black people's sole purpose is to be destructive isn't reality, because
where
black
are they
people
building?
aren't destroying anything. White men are.
Give me an area where black men and women are building instead of destroying. Can you tell me something?
Black people built the success of this country that you're sitting in here living in.
In 2017, it's not true.
Black people built the success of this country.
That's not true.
And yet white people get to go around and destroy it. They get to be mass shooters. They get to pollute the oceans. They get to pollute the sky.
Cynthia.
They get to cause wars. They get to do all of this stuff. And then people like you help them to get away with it by not acknowledging the level of destruction that they're causing.
First of all, black people did not build the country, by the way. But let me ask. So,
I'm sorry.
Can you tell me?
You should write the Board of Education and tell them that then, because last I checked, it was black people out here building the wealth of this country.
So,
not
Cynthia
white
G,
people.
in 2017, can you tell me in one area where black people are building rather than destroying?
You do realize the two biggest economies that supports this country is sports and entertainment, right? And those are black male dominated. Those are black dominated. So without these two sectors, America wouldn't even be half of what it is. Like I'm just confused as to it's hard to have a discussion when you're experiencing a reality that's different than what someone else is. Because you mentioned these football players, and this is why I believe that we should be segregated. We should be the thugs are the ones that just went up and shot up Walmart and shot up the church. Those are the thugs and the terrorists. Well, those are football players who are making an honest living, and they're simply standing for something. And then you have white owners. All of the owners should not be white. That right there is white supremacy, but it's probably white supremacy that you don't see, because nobody the owners are not even able to effectively play the game.
So let me ask
certainly
this.
Should not be owning it.
Do you vote? Are you a Democrat or Republican?
I'm not bipartisan because it doesn't matter. Either way, whether you get Democrat or Republican, you're still getting white supremacy.
Do you vote?
Just two different versions.
Do you vote?
I didn't vote.
Do you vote?
I didn't vote. I vote on a local level. I do. I vote locally.
Let me get Greg in here really fast. Let me ask. There's a thing going around now where it's okay to be white. White people saying it's okay to be white. Do you agree that it's okay to be white?
I think if we look at all the damage and destruction that white has caused, then we could logically conclude that it's probably not, because them thinking that being white is okay. And if you look at on the nature basis, look at genetically white, there isn't any benefit to whiteness. Actually, whiteness doesn't even naturally occur.
Speaking of white, let me go to a white male out of Wilmington, Delaware. Greg, you're on with Cynthia G. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Cynthia G. This is Greg G. How you doing?
Hi, Greg. I'm fine. How about yourself?
Good. First of all, I think you've done a wonderful job of appropriating white hairstyle, so I compliment you. That looks good. Second of all, do you realize that financial institutions in this country are actually required to lend to blacks to the extent that I'm in the demographics business, and there's an entire business in finding the best or most likely blacks to pay back because they're forced to make loans, so they're going to find the best of the worst. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of the fact that regardless to whether these loans are issuing out to black people, it's not issued out to a degree that it's equal. And I think that what white society
it's more
has
than
an issue
equal,
with,
because if they were only going to base it on their creditworthiness, they would not get the loan.
It's not equal. It's not equal.
Cynthia,
it's not equal. And I think that the confusion that white people have is that they don't know what equality means.
Cynthia, thank you so much for coming on again. We're out of time. We'll have you back. I appreciate it, all right?
Absolutely.
All right.